All right, it is Friday. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to today's live stream. My name is Gershom Folcott. We have with us, as always, Mr. Jason Wong, one of our founders for VB Technology and one of the executive leaders. We also have with us, as always, James, that's making things happen. It's like the producer that made things happen in the background, right? All the way from
That's right.
California. He's,
He's like the glue that makes everything kind of come together.
He is, man. That's awesome. I love him.
Yeah.
But yeah, welcome back, everyone. Today's live stream. We have a lot to talk about. A lot of things are going on. I hope everyone had a really good week, a productive week. Besides all the chaos and whatnot, all the uncertainties with COVID and protests and the markets and all of that. But hey, life goes on, right? Oh, it's Mr. Wong. What kind of week did
Yeah.
you have today, sir? How was your week this week?
Well, a pretty darn good week,
Yeah.
considering my binary was doing really, really well. I think Mr. Gage look new signups. That is amazing, considering the situation as a country, as a world that we're in. Right? People are still, opportunity and Bitcoin. I know that we're going to be discussing today, and also of becoming a miner. And yeah, before we have, I don't know if everybody knows, today is actually the official U.S. holiday. They made it Juneteenth Day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
By the way, Mr. Wong, I'm not sure if our viewers are hearing the same thing, but your audio is very choppy. Just so you know, I'm not sure if it was just on my
okay,
end or what. Yeah.
is it better?
Now it's better, but when you first started, it was very, very choppy.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I let me just quickly recap of what I said. I was telling want the audience to know that we had over 100 signups when Jin was looking through the records, which really amazes me because in consideration of the situation that we're in the U.S. and around the world, people are still flocking to become a Bitcoin miner. And I know you're going to go over some of these topics about companies are buying up all the Bitcoins that are mined, and actually over 150% of it. So I'm not going to steal your thunder here, but it just really amazes me how people are seeing this as a tremendous opportunity. And I
Absolutely.
was also saying that happy Juneteenth Day. It is an official holiday. We actually close all of our other offices and let our staff stay at home and celebrate the other holiday. So,
Yeah, the Juneteenth holiday is a special day for the Black community. Um,
for
I
sure.
don't know all the intricate details, but as far as I know, Juneteenth was, I think, that like the Emancipation Proclamation went into effect, and I think a certain part of the country were not aware that the slaves were freed, and so the news didn't get to them until like 2.5 years after the slaves were freed. On this day, I think that I don't know 18 the exact date, but that's what it makes reference to. So it's a big day for the Black community. Maybe I should know more, but being from Jamaica, I don't really, not too keen on that part of it. But nonetheless, it's a special day for many people. So happy Juneteenth to everyone that celebrates.
That's right.
And
Yep.
yeah, let's jump right into the topic. So this first, see, who is that behind us?
That was Hunter Gal, Mr. Gal's son. He's over at my
Hey,
house. So
Hunter, what's up?
yeah.
But so the first topic, and this we talked about this last week. We were talking about Mr. Ga was talking about it. You were talking about it, So we're talking about the great wealth transfer and how the baby boomers, most of the, I think 70% of America's wealth is tied up in the baby boomers generation.
For
And so
sure.
we're talking about the great wealth transfer that's going to take place, as the baby boomers go into retirement, and as they go towards, the later part of their life, they're going to have to pass on that wealth to the Gen X's and the millennials. So we're talking about that, which is great. It makes a lot of sense. But then come to find out, not only are the baby boomers gearing up to do that, but the baby boomers themselves are actually learning about Bitcoin, and they're actually buying Bitcoin and getting into Bitcoin. And as a matter of fact, Mr. Wong, I'm sure you're going to attest to this. I don't want to
I'm
say
not
the
a baby boomer.
majority. No,
Not a baby boomer.
not that, not that. But
I'm 25 plus. All right.
sure
So
you are 25 plus 30, right?
let me put that on the record right now.
Yeah, but listen, a large part of our membership, I would feel very confident to say a large part of our membership are baby boomers,
That is correct.
right? And it's
That is
something
correct.
that it really warms my heart to see that. And I remember, I was talking to I think our CEO one time, because I remember one of our first Black Diamond members was a gentleman from Arizona, Ted,
That's
right?
right.
And so to see, I wasn't really surprised when I saw the article, but
Hmm.
it's just refreshing and confirmed the points that we were talking about last week from Mr. Gao about the great wealth transfer. But it goes beyond that, that the baby boomers are actually getting involved with Bitcoin. They're learning about it. They're getting involved. They're mining. They're buying, which is wonderful, because for such a long time before I got into Bitcoin mining, I realized that the financial system was very fragile. And I knew that, as a matter of fact, a lot of pension systems are in trouble. And so a lot of baby boomers that have their savings tied up in the pension systems, they're not realizing that they have to find an exit. They cannot rely on the pension system to be there for them
Yeah.
when they go deeper into retirement. So once again, here comes Bitcoin to the rescue, because Bitcoin now provides them a leverage, if you will, or a hedge against their traditional pension system or the 401k, which whenever the market get beat up, the 401k get beat up and whatnot. So I'm just very pleased and happy to see that baby boomers are not afraid of the new technology, because a lot of times what happens is when new technology comes around, those of us who are on the more mature end of life, we tend to shun away from technology, right? So I'm very, very
Hmm.
happy to see that baby boomers are actually warming up to Bitcoin. They're learning about it. They're learning about the technology. They get involved, and that's a very good thing to see. What do you say, Mr. Wong?
Yeah. It's validating what we have seen. The market has validated what we have seen in our company's own trend, that we do in fact have a lot of baby boomers as a mining customer, right? With that being said, we got to really ask ourselves why this is the case, why they are so interested in setting aside, some of their money into buying these machines and start mining Bitcoins, right? It is really because if you look back to history in the last 30 years, let's just say 20 or so, the market has been crashing about every 10 years, right? And
Mm-hmm.
if you are a retiree that's been retired in your retirement for 20 or 20 plus years, you have experienced these roller coaster rides. And every time when it dips 30, 40% of your portfolio values. And then it slowly climb back up. But if think about yourself, if you are on a fixed income basis, you have a 401k, that after as you retire, you switch it to a more conservative type of investment portfolios or mix. But even with that, what kind of interest rate are we receiving today? Right? It is it is it is very detrimental to those retirees that are living on fixed income. So finally, I think they're seeing this as an additional, hatch or protections to, what they're doing, which makes a lot of sense to me. We always advocate that, don't put everything in here into BTC, right? But do, your research, and then after that, think about putting anywhere between, 2-5% and into mining. After you analyze it, you'll find out, you'll come to a conclusion that mining actually works out better than just buying and holding. Right? To
Absolutely.
us, as a Bitcoin miner, we know every day when we wake up in the morning, when we check our Taboo wallet, we see that deposit of what we mined the day before, which is sweet, right? Every day you wake up, and like today, it's a holiday. I wake up, I see that just on my account, I mined about $135 or so and change in Bitcoins without lifting a finger. Well, I didn't lift my finger to check on the accounts, but that's about the extent of that's about the extent of the work that I did.
That's the extent of you lifting your finger, huh?
That's it.
Typing your password and username and password.
Exactly. Of my facial recognitions. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yes, it certainly does. And the thing about baby boomers are those who are more on the mature end of the scale.
And they're the one with the money. Yes, absolutely. Yes, that's very true.
They're the ones with the money, but they have seen everything, right? They have seen the peaks and valleys. They have seen the ups and downs. And they realize that this current monetary system is not the safest for them right now. Because just imagine, if someone is in their 20s or 30s and they are invested in the market, their retirement, whatever, they can actually, withstand a 30 or 40% drop in the market, right? Absolutely, because they can come back. They have time. But when you are someone that's in your late 60s, 70s, even 80s, and you have your retirement funds tied up into the market, you cannot afford a 30, 40% drop in your retirement portfolio, right?
Oh, so no way.
But see, before we had something like Bitcoin, they didn't have a choice, right? They were trapped in that system. They were trapped in the traditional market. But now with something like Bitcoin, now they can leverage themselves and actually have an avenue to where, hey, okay, if the market dropped 30, 40%, at least I have this portion of my portfolio in a mining Bitcoin project that's bringing me an alternative source of income that's not tied to the traditional markets, right? And so that's a great thing. And for a very long time, a lot of people in the Bitcoin space, they were literally advocating for most of these financial advisors to start talking to their clients about Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining. And the thing is, for a very long time, they were against it, the traditional financial advisors, right? Because they didn't see a way for them to make money off of it. But now they're realizing that not only is it important for their clients, it's actually necessary. It's imperative that anyone right now that's looking for a financial future, if you're not looking to something like Bitcoin, if all of your assets or all of your future income is tied into this fragile market, then I think you're going to be in for a rude awakening.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
If history is any indication, we have been crashing every 10 years or so. Just as we go back to the high, the market crashes again. It is almost like by design. It almost feels like, we're those little piggies that are in the farms. They raise us until we get to a certain weight, certain size. They come in and slaughter all of us as a small investors. That's how the big, sharks or big time investors, more, fund managers, that's how they make money.
We're nothing but pigs for the slaughter.
That's how I see the market, seriously, because I feel like, oh man, great. I remember towards the end of 2019, when S&P, start to peak right at the end. I'm like, oh, this is great. what should I do? Should I increase my monthly contributions to the account? Yeah, I do like a periodic, just automatic contributions to the account, or should I, you know, in the back of my mind, I feel like, you know what, this is really getting really hot, like too hot. I feel like something would come and actually, and for the small investor, it's going to be bad, right? We actually
Yeah.
cashed out actually some of our S&P accounts, so and then we hold on to it. We put it in BTC. So which at the hindsight, I think we made the right move. But you can never time the market like this, right? Who
It's
has
almost
that
impossible.
ability? It is impossible.
Yeah.
So it's just very sad for the small investors, of what happened. It is completely out of their control. You look at 1999 when the internet frenzy, it started in 1998, went into 1999 and crashed in 2000. People lost a lot of money.
They did.
The market crashed like 40%.
They
And
did.
then come 2008, it crashed again.
Happened
I mean,
again. Same thing. Yeah.
exactly. So that's been what's happening. I won't be surprised after we recover. There's going to be another crash just ahead of us. And it's like they wanna race you, get you nice and fat, and then they come in and they slaughter you.
That's what I was saying. We are like pigs for the slaughter.
Right.
And so they fatten you up,
Yeah.
and the way they fatten you up is by enticing you to make a contribution to your 401k.
Right.
Put your money into the market. Because here's what you have to understand. When the market crash, the money doesn't go to money heaven. There's no money heaven. The money goes somewhere. Where does it go? Right? It doesn't evaporate. So if the market is, let's say the Dow is at 29,000, the S&P is at 3,000, whatever, NASDAQ is at 10,000, whatever, pick a number. And when the market crashes and those numbers come down, let's say the Dow lose 30%, S&P lose 30%, NASDAQ lose 20%, whatever. Where do you think that money goes? It goes in somebody's pocket. It didn't evaporate, and it didn't go to money heaven, okay? So it's like, that's why a lot of people look at the markets and they think like it's a scheme. It's a scheme to fleece the average person on the street. Because, and just like you were talking about, Jason, imagine that the market crashed 30 or 40%, and you say, okay, I'm going to ride it out until it recovers. And right when it's about to recover, boom, another crash.
Yep.
Right? And how long can you keep doing that? So I'm very happy to see that the baby boomers are now realizing that they cannot afford to leave their well-being, their financial well-being in the traditional market, and they're seeing something like Bitcoin as a hedge against that to protect themselves. It's a beautiful thing. And when I saw that article, it really warms my heart. But then it brings me back to what we were talking about last week as it relates to the great wealth transfer. And then when I think about the fact that a big chunk of our members are baby boomers, are in that category. So I was happy to see that. That's beautiful. And we are leading the charge with that because, we love the fact that a lot of our members are baby boomers. There are two things about our members. A lot of them are baby boomers, and a lot of them are females, and I love that. Right? I just love that to the T. All right. Moving on to the next topic. Mr. Wong, they say we don't need to know, right? Imagine that the administration, they want $1 trillion. They want $1 trillion to give to some companies, and they're telling us that we don't need to know who those companies are going to be. Can you believe that? That's the kind of stuff that really gets under my skin. And that's the same thing that happened in 2008 when they had the stimulus package. And in my opinion, the reason why they do not want us to know is because what's going to happen is a lot of this money is going to be given out as big bonuses to those fat cats on Wall Street. And they know that once that happened and people hear about it, then maybe they'll share a march on Washington, because that day is coming, by the way. But imagine that they want $1 trillion to give to their cronies, and we can't know who those companies are. And the Congress is going to go for this. That really pisses me off. I got to be honest with you.
You know it's going to their friends and family.
Absolutely. That's exactly where it's going.
It's not coming to you and me. That's for sure.
That is for sure. But but the fact that our Congress allows these things to happen, right? How is it that our hard-earned money, because us as taxpayers, we're the one that's going to have to foot the bill. So how is it that they're going to tell us, yes, we want you guys to give us $1 trillion, and we will do with it what we see fit, and you don't need to know about it? What?
Right.
That's just not right. So
we're not sophisticated enough to even understand.
That's their excuse. We are not sophisticated enough. At some point, I'm just going to put this out there. At some point, we're going to have to start to hold our government accountable. And
for sure,
we can cry and kick and scream all we want, but a lot of things that goes on in our government is really on us. It's our fault, because we are not holding our government accountable. Because the fact that we can allow the administration to say they want $1 trillion to do whatever they want to do with it, and we don't need to know what they do with it. And if we accept that, then that's on us, right? If we allow our representative in Washington to accept that, then that's on us. So a lot of things that goes on in our economy, in our financial system, in our justice system, all of that is on us, because we're the one that put those guys in office. And if we leave them there to do all these shenanigans and don't hold them accountable, then at the end of the day, we are responsible for it.
That is very true, Gershom, because while we are enjoying all these stimulus that are going on right now, that is being infused into the market, sooner or later, we're going to also feel the pain when the music stops. And the pain is this. We're going to start noticing that why all of a sudden a loaf of bread goes from, let's say, $4 today to $6, $7, right? A pint of ice creams that goes for $4 today goes to $7 or $8, right? When we can, comfortably find a 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, apartment to rent for, let's say, $1,000 plus utilities, all of a sudden it's going to $1,500, $1,700 because of the hyperinflation. That's when the pain point comes. And your small employers, small businesses can't afford to pay its employees the higher cost of living, with the new wage. Because like you say, these money, they are just being shuffled around. They don't go to money heaven. They are going to some well-connected individuals or corporations, and doesn't even get funneled down to, if it goes to corporations like, VP Corporation, I say, but we don't get any, stimulus on money like that, right? I mean, if it comes to, it's not like it's going to trickle down to all the levels of employees. It's going to the executives, into their pockets as bonuses. That's how, like you say it, in 2008, how some of these money went in the stimulus package, which is ridiculous. To me, they were the one who, messed this thing up. Why would they be getting a bonus? They should be fired and locked up and thrown into jail. But instead, we reward them for their bad behaviors.
When I talk about these things, I get so upset I get so upset because it's so wrong.
It is in many
This
levels.
is, yeah, we don't have any, and I said this before, we don't have any leadership in our government. We don't have any leadership in our representative. Everyone, to me, the system is so corrupt, and everyone have their hands in their pocket, and they all scratches each other's back on our back, right? We're the one that's footing the bill as far as the tax payment and whatnot. And you're right, all these guys, on Wall Street, this corrupt bank executive that almost crashed the entire system in 2008. And then when they get the bailout, what do they do with it? They give each other, millions of dollars in bonuses. And I believe that that's exactly what's going on right now. And that's the reason why they do not want us to know what they're doing with this $1 trillion. $1 trillion is a lot of money. That's 1,000 billion, right?
That is a
And
lot of money.
imagine that's a lot of money. And they want us just to give them $1 trillion, and they will just do whatever they want to do with it, give it to who they want to give to, and their bonus and whatnot. And we don't need to know. And the fact of the matter is this, like I was saying before, the longer we keep accepting this kind of behavior from our leaders, then the more they're going to keep doing it, right? If we accept them to do these things, then why wouldn't they keep doing it? Because we're not holding them accountable. So yes, and you mentioned something about hyperinflation. That's going to come. Here's what I think is going to happen. This is my take on the whole thing. The more the Fed keep printing all this money, like a couple of days ago, Jerome Powell says when the market was about to, the market was dipping a little bit, and he was doing he was in Washington doing some kind of testimony or whatever, and he promised that they're gonna start buying up corporate bonds.
I know.
Right? So, like we were talking about the other day, we don't have a market anymore because you cannot compete with that, right? You and I, as a small-time investor, cannot compete with that because we have a government and a Fed that says that they have the printing press and they can print up as much money as they want to and shove it into the market, right? And the reason why they're doing that because they need to prop this market up because they need to give us the illusion that things are okay. Okay, fine. And also in an election here, they can't afford for the market to crash because, it's just one of those things where whoever is in office, whenever there's a market crash, that administration gets to blame, whether it was their fault or not. That's just the way things work out. So they're going to do everything they possibly can to keep this market up, especially during this year. But what's going to happen is this. The more they keep printing all this money, right, and shove it in the market, give it to the cronies or whatever, people on the outside do not think that they're not paying attention. And one of these days, they're going to stop taking U.S. dollars in trade. And when that happens, all that dollar that's on the outside is going to come home. And when those dollars come home, that's when we're going to see the hyperinflation. So we don't know when that's going to be, right? There's no date, like an expiration date or a specific date. But the more we keep printing this money, at some point, can you imagine if like a Germany one day says, you know what, we're no longer accepting U.S. dollars in trade. We want something else. Can you imagine what that would do to the U.S. dollar? So I strongly believe that day is coming. One of these days, we're going to hear some big, countries, a established country is going to make the announcement that they no longer want to accept the U.S. dollar. And when that day comes, I guarantee you, that's when you're going to see the hyperinflation. So let them keep printing all they want. The best thing that we can do is to protect ourselves from all the money printing because we cannot stop what they're doing. We cannot interfere. No. We have no say about it. But get yourself a Bitcoin mining package. Get into Bitcoin mining. Guys, I'm telling you, if you're not already in Bitcoin, please save yourself and your family. Get into Bitcoin. That's the only thing that's going to save us from all this craziness.
So, we know that we look at fiat, we look at currency as a tool, right? A tool in which people can go and around and exchange for goods and services. So I know if I have $100, I can use $100 in exchange for somebody else's services or some other goods that he or she has produced. The only problem with this too is we're not the one in control of on the supply side, right? Which is very different from Bitcoin. Bitcoin is also a tool, right? But it's people's tool. That's what I love about it. That's the beautiful thing about Bitcoin, because it is truly the people's tool. You know, if we really, our founding father, founded the country because we wanted the true freedom, the liberties for all. We're not really quite practicing it, right? In terms of the money supply side, because we as the people are the one that don't have control on the supply side, and that's a problem.
That is a problem. But that's why they say Bitcoin is a people's money.
It is a
right. It is a people's money.
It is people's money.
In the video that we're going to play for you guys today, we have the CEO of Twitter. And I know that I've been talking to you guys for the past few weeks now that I recommend that everyone should have a Twitter account just to kind of keep up and keep informed as far as what's going on. And I said it before and I will say it again, all the information is happening on Twitter. It's not happening on CNN. It's not happening on Fox. You want to get real information and you need to be on Twitter. But anyway, our video coming up later is of the CEO of Twitter. He's just talking about, why, he got into Bitcoin and why he set up Square. That's not a company to also accept Bitcoin. It's very good. It's a real chat he's having with Joe Rogan. By the way, another thing, if you guys listen to podcasts or if you subscribe to podcasts, one of the podcasts that you guys should really subscribe to is the Joe Rogan podcast. I think that guy have some of the most interesting guests on his podcast. As a matter of fact, he's one of the most popular podcaster in the world, I think. But yeah, if you are interested in podcasts, if you're not subscribed to Joe Rogan podcast yet, I recommend you guys subscribe to that. It's a really good podcast. But anyway, but yeah, I'm really upset that, these guys in Washington, they want $1 trillion to give to their Wall Street cronies, and they're telling us to go pound sand. There's no need for us to know where the money is going. Mm-hmm. And that makes me upset because I know that all that is just nothing but corruption. That's all that is. And, the more we allow it to happen, then, it's really our fault. We got to start holding these guys accountable. We have to. And if we don't, then this is what's going to happen. All right, moving right along. And so this particular topic I wanted to bring up because the other day we had a support ticket that someone sent in, and they were wondering why they were mining a little less Bitcoin, even though we talk about the mining difficulty that happens all the time. And so in the past couple of months, especially since the Bitcoin halving, the mining difficulty is getting harder and harder, which we kind of expect that would happen. And we talk about it plenty of times that after the halving, it wasn't going to be just puppies and ice cream. We were going to see the mining difficulty increase. We were going to see a dip in the Bitcoin price. And so now that it's happening, we get emails all the time and support, and people want to know, why is the Bitcoin price dipping? Why am I mining less today than I did yesterday? And these are the things that we talk about. So in the past few months, the mining difficulty has been increasing. Yes, I think it get adjusted every 2 weeks. Some weeks it does decrease, but for the most part, it's been getting more difficult and more difficult and more difficult. But that's why we do what we do. And that's why we always say, when you do Bitcoin mining, it's a long game thing, right? It's a long-term thing. It's not, it's not a get rich quick overnight type situation. And so in the long run, as the Bitcoin price stabilize, and as we believe that we'll see an all-time high this year, maybe about 20,000. but then the real high that we're going to see in the Bitcoin price is going to be coming next year. And I say we're going to see anywhere from 50,000 to $100,000 Bitcoin next year, but we have to get there, right? And in order for us to get to the 20,000 Bitcoin price and the 50,000 Bitcoin price and the $100,000 Bitcoin price, we have to go through this. It's not going to happen just like that. So if you want a $20,000 Bitcoin or $50,000 Bitcoin, then you have to weather this storm. You have to deal with these mining difficulties. You have to deal with this price fluctuation. You cannot get the reward if you don't want to put in the work, right? And weathering this period of time, we're going to have these fluctuation not only in the price but also in the mining difficulty. When the Bitcoin price gets to 20,000, then that's going to be a little bit sweeter. So I wanted to bring this up because we had a few emails last week. When people are saying, why they're mining less and things like that. So I kind of wanted to talk about that again one more time. What say you, Mr. Wong?
Yeah, this is a very, very well explanation. As a miner, that's the fluid and dynamic, thing that I love about Bitcoins, because this is a decentralized system. And by that it means, it heavily depends on how many people are joining the network, right? To contribute their mining power, to help solve these algorithms so that they can get rewarded with Bitcoins, and on the other side, it also depends on how many people are actually, buying up these Bitcoins. Now, you might say, well, why are so many people going into, the Bitcoins mining? And, I know you're going to go over this, articles about people actually, these companies are buying up 150% of total Bitcoin mine on a daily basis. Well, how come the price is only seesawing and it's not going up? Well, here's the biggest factor that I think it affects it. We actually, as a small time investor, just like you and me, right? We look at the prices from an exchange. When we go there, we buy. Not too many people can afford to go there and buy one whole Bitcoin or half a Bitcoin, or maybe even 1/10 of one Bitcoin, right? People might go there and start putting $100 worth of Bitcoin, $200, $300, $400, $500, so on and so forth. But you're looking at these big investment managers or big wealth, or these people with just deep pocket. They go OTC, over the counter market, to do these private transactions. So like you and me, let's say Gershom, I know he holds like 100 Bitcoins, right? He's laughing. He's like, because he probably holds more.
Why are you gonna put me on blast like that, Mr. Wong?
Right. So let's say Gershom holds like 500 Bitcoins in his wallet, right? If he actually sells it on an exchange, it's gonna have a major impact on the price. It's gonna have a downward pressure. It's gonna push the price down, because all of a sudden there are so much more supply on the exchange. And so he's not going to do that. He's going to go to these OTC markets, right, which is not available to you and me, because we'll never be like Gershom, that has 500 Bitcoins to buy or sell, right? So, and I happen to have, money to buy 500 Bitcoins, and I'm interested in buying 500 Bitcoins. So we basically transact in these OTC markets, and that gets insulated. That transaction volume gets insulated from your traditional exchange, and therefore it won't affect the price. So the demand is there for sure. We see that from two sources. One is more people are getting into Bitcoin mining because they see the opportunity, right? And they want to accumulate as many Bitcoin as possible and as fast as possible. Second, we are seeing more and more bigger investors that are coming into the space and buying up Bitcoins on an OTC market. All right. So go ahead, Gershon. That's my 2 cents.
Absolutely. You're 100% correct. We have to, and that's the only reason why I wanted to, this video at the end that we're going to play is just kind of don't want us to realize that there are really some big players that's involved in this market. It's not just mom and pop. It's not just us. We're talking really, really big time sophisticated players in this market. And, most of them who are acquiring Bitcoin, they're doing it very sophisticatedly, right? So like you're talking about, Jason, they're doing it, over the counter where it doesn't affect price. Just like you talk on the buy side, if I want to buy, a 500 or 1,000 Bitcoin and I buy it on an exchange, then that's going to drive up the price, right? But if I want to keep the price where it is so I can keep accumulating Bitcoin, I just buy it over the counter so the price doesn't get affected. And I can come back and keep getting more with the price being stagnant. So a lot of those things happening in the market. But the things that we have to keep in mind is that we're in the long game. And one of the things that we have to realize, is patience. We have to be patient.
That's right.
And I keep saying that this is not something that we get involved with it today and tomorrow, we have $1 billion. It doesn't work that way. We have to be patient. We have to let things play out, and we can't get caught up in the noise. We pay attention to the noise, but we can't get caught up in the noise, and just know that what we're doing, we're on the right side of history. And we have to understand that we're on the right side of history. But at the same time, we have to be patient for things to play out the way they are going to play out. Okay. But yeah, I kind of want to touch on that because we did get some inquiries from members in terms of the mining difficulty and whatnot. But I want to say something, Jason. So the article that you were talking about the fund that's buying up all the Bitcoin. Yeah, that was an article that we actually discussed that article last week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we discussed that last week because we did talk about Grayscale, which was buying up the equivalent of 150% of all the Bitcoin being mined. And then another company, another fund was created, and they are actually challenging Grayscale, and they're buying up just as much Bitcoin as Grayscale is buying up. So you have to ask yourself, why is that, right? And the first thing that you realize, just like you said, Jason, is that the demand is there. Because these companies, number one, they wouldn't establish themselves. And number two, they wouldn't be putting this much resources into buying up Bitcoin. The only reason why they're doing that is because they have the clientele to service with those Bitcoin, right? So absolutely the demand is there. And so all the hard work that you guys are putting in, and the hard work just means patience. And you're not doing the heavy lifting or anything like that, but it just means that you have to don't be emotional about things, right? You just need to be patient. And your hard work in terms of having faith in the Bitcoin, in the technology, in the network, just have patience. And in the next couple of years, you're going to get your reward, okay? But in the meantime, you have to be patient, okay? The next topic I want to talk about, so this one is very interesting. So we call these guys whales, right? Guys like Jason, guys that have thousands of Bitcoin in their wallet.
Are you calling me fat?
We call them Bitcoin whales because they have so much Bitcoin. But a Bitcoin whale moved $2.2 billion in Bitcoin a couple of days ago, and it only cost him $7. Guys, $7 to move $2.2 billion. Now, if he had done that the traditional way, you know how much it would cost him? It would cost him anywhere between $66 and $110 million to move that much money. So that's just another benefit of Bitcoin, where a lot of wealthy people, when they want to move their funds these days, they're not doing it the traditional way any longer. Some people are, absolutely, but the more savvy investors, the more savvy wealthy people, when they want to move money from one place to the next, they're using Bitcoin to do it because the fees are so much lower, the transaction fees, right? Now, if they're moving Bitcoin, let's say, for example, like I get questions all the time from my members because they will move their Bitcoin from their Kaboo wallet into Coinbase, right? It costs them very little, if anything, right? Very, very little. But then when they move it from Coinbase to their bank account, the fees are ridiculous. And we get questions all the time, why the fees so high? But here's the thing, we have nothing to do with those fees. And when you move your Bitcoin, so when you move Bitcoin within the network, like say from one Bitcoin wallet to the next Bitcoin wallet, very small amount of fees. But when you move Bitcoin from the Bitcoin network itself, like say, for example, when your Bitcoin is on Coinbase, when you want to move that to your bank account, now you're getting back in the traditional banking system, right? And that's where the fees are going to hit you. So yes, Coinbase fees are high because when you go from Coinbase to your bank, it's a traditional way, they're going to charge you between 3 and 5%. But within the Bitcoin network, pennies on the dollar, right? So here is someone a few days ago moved $2.2 billion in Bitcoin, and it only cost them $7. That is amazing. I mean, 20 years ago, if you told someone that they could move that much money before Bitcoin came on the scene, let's just say 15 years ago, if you told someone that they could move that much wealth and only pay $7 to do it, they would laugh in your face. But here we are, right? And that's another benefit of moving Bitcoin, the cost. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people get involved with Bitcoin, because the transaction fees are so low. What do you think, Mr. Wong? What are your thoughts on that?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing how we should go back and expand these infrastructures. Really, why does it cost so much money for banks to move from one account to another? Really, you know what they do? It's nothing different from what Bitcoin ledgers or miners do. Recording transactions from Gersham's $2.2 billion account to his offshore account in Switzerland. That's all they do. And I forgot what was the quota amount if they have done it in a traditional way. What was the fees would have been?
Okay, so this way, right? They moved $2.2 billion. It cost them $7 to do it. If they had done it the traditional way, it will cost them between 66 million and 110 million.
66 million.
66 million to move $2.2 billion.
I can guarantee you these bankers are not physically moving these monies in money bags. All right, what they do is they do the heavy lifting, and that's it. Does not warrant $6 million. It does not warrant $6.6 million. It does not warrant $660,000.
It's not.
All right,
it's not. But the thing is, those bankers, they are the one that set the fees.
Of course.
Right? And there's nothing you can do about it, because if I need to send you some funds, or if I need to move my funds to the Cayman Islands, if I'm in that system and I need to move my funds to the Cayman Island, I need to do a wire transfer, like I don't have a choice. I have to use that system, right? So whatever their fees are going to be, like I have to pay it. Otherwise, I can't move my money. So that's another reason why a lot of people want to get out of that system, because they kill you with fees. I mean, just for moving your money around. And then not only are the fees ridiculous, the time it takes to move your money around, right? Try sending $2.2 billion to your offshore account in the Cayman Islands or Switzerland somewhere, and see how long it's going to take you. It's going to take about minimum 3 days, maybe a week. But we could do a Bitcoin, and depending on what's going on the network and how much you want to pay us for the transaction fees, it can happen in a matter of minutes. So it's so much more efficient, and that's another thing that why Bitcoin is going to be, really making a lot of headway in the coming years is that once people start to see the efficiency in conducting business, in conducting financial transaction with Bitcoin, you're going to see more and more people get involved because it's very efficient, it's trustless, right? You don't need to trust anyone. The system is there. The blockchain is there to keep us trustworthy. And, and the time it takes to move the money around. So there's so many advantages to Bitcoin as opposed to the traditional system. And more people are waking up to that.
Hey, sorry, I had a bad reception earlier.
I saw that. No worries.
Just
no worries.
Yep.
Cool.
All my kids are home, so they each
they're all using it. They're all on the Wi-Fi, huh?
Even though I have a gigabyte speed, right, which is amazing to me. Like I have gigabyte service at my house, and it's not handling it. I mean, I just kick some of my kids off of their iPads and whatnot. So please just get off for a couple of more minutes.
just for a few more minutes, right?
Yeah, let me finish up my podcast, and then you guys can get back on to your normal daily life.
All right, listen. So let's wrap things up. So our tradition doing this live stream, we bring you guys on some kind of interview or podcast or a piece of a podcast that we think kind of adds to the conversation. Whether in a minute way or in a broad way, kind of tie some things together. So as I was saying in the beginning, today's interview is a piece of an interview between Joe Rogan and the CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, and he's talking about Bitcoin and why and how he integrated Bitcoin into Square, which is a payment system that he has in place. And he has some more things to say about Bitcoin I thought was very, very interesting. And I thought that you guys will find them interesting as well. So James, whenever you're ready, go ahead and play that video for people. Appreciate that.
No. Maybe we should take it. It's open. It's free now.
One of our like equivalent operating principles within Cash and Square is like how do we understand someone's struggle? Like, how do we understand, like, how do we have the empathy for, like, what they're struggling with? And, like, when it comes to finance, they're struggling with a lot.
Yeah.
Typically, they're struggling with a ton.
What was the thought process with, I mean, one of the things that's kind of cool about the Cash App is that you can buy and sell Bitcoin with it.
Yeah.
Are you guys going to consider other forms of cryptocurrency as well?
Not right now. So, back to the internet, I believe the internet will have a native currency.
Really?
It'll have a native currency. And I don't know if it's Bitcoin. I think it will, because just given all the tests it's been through and the principles behind it, how it was created, and it was something that was born on the internet, that was developed on the internet, that it was tested on the internet. It is of the internet. And the reason we enabled the purchasing of Bitcoin within the Cash App is, one, we want to learn about the technology, and we want to put ourselves out there and take some risk. We're the first publicly traded company to actually offer it as a service. We're the first publicly traded company to talk to the SEC about Bitcoin and what that means. And it made us uncomfortable. We had to like really understand what was going on, and that was critical and important. And then the second thing is that we would love to see something become a global currency. It enables more access. It allows us to serve more people. It allows us to move much faster around the world. And we thought we were going to start with how you can use it transactionally, but we noticed that people were treating it more like an asset, like a virtual gold, and we wanted just to make that easy, like just the simplest way to buy and sell Bitcoin. But we also knew that it had to come with a lot of education. It had to come with constraint, because 2 years ago, people did some really unhealthy things about purchasing Bitcoin. They maxed out their credit cards and put all their life savings into Bitcoin. So we developed some very simple restrictions and constraints, like you can't buy Bitcoin on the Cash App with a credit card. It has to be the money you actually have in it. and we look for day trading, which we discourage and shut down. Like that's not what we were trying to build. That's not what we were trying to optimize for. We made a children's book explaining what Bitcoin is and where it came from and how people use it and where it might be going. So we really tried to take on the role of education and to have some like very simple, healthy constraints that allowed people to consider what their actions are in the space.
Now, when you have something like the Cash App, which is it's very much a disruptive technology in terms of like decentralization of banks and currency, and to have it where everything is going right at, you're direct depositing a paycheck right in the app if you so choose, and then you could also buy Bitcoin, which is another disruptive technology. I mean, this is another step towards this sort of new way of doing things.
Yeah.
And is there pushback from any companies, or is there?
Oh yeah. I mean, like you just look at like some of the major banks and their consideration around Bitcoin. They all love blockchain because of the efficiencies it can create for their business and potentially new business lines. But I think there is
explain blockchain to people, for people who don't know what we're talking about.
Blockchain is a distributed ledger, and what that means is that it's basically a distributed database where the source of truth can be verified at any point around the network. And you can see, this annotation around how content or how around money like traveled.
So you don't have to go to an institution to get the records.
There's no centralized check. There's no centralized control over it. And I think that is threatening. It's certainly threatening to certain services behind banks and financial institutions. It's threatening to some governments as well. So I just look at this and like, how do we embrace this technology, not react to it in more from a threat standpoint, but like, what does it enable us to do and where does our value shift? And that's what we should be talking about right now, is like how our value shifts. And there's always really strong answers to that question. But if you're not willing to ask the question in the first place, you will become irrelevant, because technology will just continue to march on and make you irrelevant. And it's the people that like are growing up with this technology, or born with the technology, only knowing that technology, or are asking the tough questions of themselves that they're going to be super disruptive to their business. And they're thinking about it right now, and they're taking actions. And we're doing that at Square, and we're doing that at Twitter. And like that to me represents longevity. That represents our ability to thrive. And we got to push ourselves. We got to make ourselves uncomfortable, and we got to disrupt what we held sacred and what we think is success today. Because otherwise, it's not going to be bigger than what we have today.
The following is a conversation with Vitalik Buterin, co-creator of
All right. So, guys, like I said, I thought that the interview with Jack Dorsey was quite interesting. A few things that he said, that I took away from that is that when he decided to incorporate Bitcoin into Square and Cash App, and Joe was asking him, did he get any pushback? And he said, yeah, because a lot of banks are afraid of something like Bitcoin. And we've known that for years, that the banking system, they're afraid of Bitcoin because it takes away the power that they have. The whole decentralization aspect of Bitcoin takes the power out of their hand and put it into the hand of the people. So yes, they were afraid of it, but he realized that as a big company, rather than be like the banks and be afraid of it, he decided to embrace it, right? And now you're seeing many other big banks are coming around, like we talked about last week, JP Morgan Chase, and they're also now coming around to the point where they're going to service two of the largest American Bitcoin exchange, not Bitcoin exchange per se, but cryptocurrency exchange, which is Coinbase and Gemini. So the banks are slowly coming around. And towards the end, he was talking about how, you have to realize that technology is just going to keep marching on. It's not going to stop. So the banks can be afraid of Bitcoin all they want. but it's here and it's not going away. So they have to figure out a way how they can actually incorporate Bitcoin into their into how they function right now. And the other thing you talk about, which I thought was very interesting, is that it's the younger generation that's going to push this thing forward, right? I'm glad I'm involved with Bitcoin. I know most of our members, like we talked about earlier, we have a lot of members who are baby boomers, but when it's all said and done, a lot of this advancement in this new technology is going to come from the young people, because a lot of those young people, they know what's going on, right? The older generation, they have the experience of what happened, in terms of how the market goes up and down and how they're always being robbed of their savings by the market. But the younger generation, they see what's going on. And believe me, I believe that the younger generations, the millennials, they do not have the trust in the traditional banking system. And so they're going to be the one that's going to pick up the baton and carry it further with this new technology. So I want to see more young people get involved with Bitcoin mining. They need to understand it. They need to get involved, because we're going to rely on them also to help us to push this new technology forward. But I thought it was an interesting chat he was having. It's like an hour and a half long interview. Like I said before, if you guys are into podcasts, one of the podcasts, this is a must. You have to subscribe to Joe Rogan. He has some of the most interesting guests on podcasts, period. One of the most popular guys in the podcast scene. So yes, if you're the podcast, please subscribe to Joe Rogan podcast. Any words for you from
I
you,
do
Mr.
like Joe
Wong?
Rogan's show.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
a really intelligent
I
guy
think.
too.
Yep, I think that the takeaway for me, which makes a lot of sense, is how he actually approached his companies, just like how he approached life. And we should all actually, kind of look at that as an opportunity, right? And this is what in order to improve ourselves, a lot of time, improve our situation, improve our health, improve our relationship, we have to first get uncomfortable. And this is one of the things that he mentioned at the podcast, Jeff Dorsey, right? Think of it as, you want to get healthy. You may be a little bit overweight or your cholesterol is high. You want to get healthier. First, you have to get uncomfortable. And what I mean by that is you have to start, let's say, training yourself, right? Changing your current, lifestyle habits. And that's going to get uncomfortable. Just like, during this 3 months of lockdown or pandemic, I gained almost 20 pounds, right? And I was just feeling too comfortable with this whole situation, drinking too much wine. So I know this is not healthy for me. And I have to start getting onto my, exercise routine, my get my the old lifestyle back, right? Where I'm not going to drink a glass of wine every night. I'm not going to eat unlimited amount of food. I'm not going to stay up till 12 a.m. or 1 a.m. and watching a movie and scooping scooping down ice creams, right? I have to get uncomfortable by getting onto the treadmills. I have to get on the treadmill, stay on the treadmill for 45 minutes, right? While that is uncomfortable for that 45, maybe first 20 or 30 minutes, because I have to get my heart rate up. My muscles are sore. But guess what? After that 45 minutes, your brain, which is amazing, start releasing these happy chemicals, right? You know what they are? Gusham?
Endorphins?
You know what they're called? Endorphins. That's right. They know that you put in the hard work. They know that you're uncomfortable. So they start giving you these happy chemicals.
They want to reward you for that. They wanted to reward you.
That's right.
He wants to reward you for that.
That's right. Positive reinforcement, right? Hey, your body, your brain knows, hey, you know what? Thank you. Thank you for keeping your body healthy. So here's a little bit of a happy chemicals for you. Enjoy.
Absolutely. They say growth doesn't happen in your comfort zone. And if you want to grow and if you want to have changes, then you're right, Mr. Wong. You have to embrace, the idea of being uncomfortable.
Yep.
I forgot. I read this somewhere. I forgot where I read it, who said it. But basically, it was about growth, and it says, "Do the thing that you fear the most." Right, the thing that you fear the most. That's the thing that you should do, and it's very difficult for us to grasp that sometimes. But anything you want to do, if you want to change in some way in your life, or whatever the case may be, if you're afraid of doing it, then do it. The thing that you're afraid to do, that's the thing that you should do. So
Yep.
I thought that was interesting. I thought that tied into what you were saying.
It is. It
If
does.
you take the approach of do the thing that you fear the most, then you'll experience some tremendous growth in your life. All right, Mr. Wong, I think that this brings us to the end of this today's live stream. Any last word for the folks out there?
Hey, before I forget, happy early Father's Day, which is coming up this Sunday. And as a father of four, I know many fathers out there. It's not an easy time right now, but please keep it up. We will turn the corner. We will get back to normal. I do strongly believe that once the vaccine is out, it's going to help protect the population, and we're going to gradually get back to normal. All right. So happy Father's Day, guys, to all the fathers out there.
Very good. Same thing here. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Hope you guys have a great weekend with your kids and the rest of your family. You guys be safe and take care of each other out there. And like Mr. Wong says, things are turning the corner, hopefully. I know that I was reading some things that they're seeing some spikes in the coronavirus in places like Florida and Houston and places like that.
Yeah.
So hopefully it doesn't get out of control. One of the things I was talking to Mr. Gao about is, if we start to see some really big numbers in the corona spike, will they shut down the economy again? Will they, implement the stay-at-home, procedures and whatnot? I don't know. I can't see the economy taking another round of, everything being shut down. So hopefully it doesn't get to that. But the way these numbers are spiking, especially some of these states like Florida and in Texas, I think also in Arizona, I'm not sure. But, hopefully we don't get to a point where we have things locked down again. I know I don't want to see that. I know most of you guys would hate to have to go through that. Right when things are starting to get back to somewhat normal, they shut it down again. That's going to be devastating. So hopefully it doesn't happen. But anyway, you guys have a great weekend. Make sure you join us again on Monday at same time, 5:30, for another live stream. And then again, Monday night when we do the compensation webinar for all our members who are involved in our affiliate program to understand how the compensation works. So Monday night at 9 p.m., don't forget, okay? And then Monday, 5:30 for another live stream. With that being said, guys, you guys have a great weekend. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers. You guys take care of yourselves. Have a great weekend, you and your family. And we'll see everyone again Monday, 5:30 for another live stream.
Take care.